What happened was a machine came down, clamped both of my hands down, and had removed 6 digits. I was in a bad situation. I didn't know what else to do, and I know I needed some type of help, so I called a G law firm. They gave me confidence throughout the whole case that everything was going to be fine. They're not only lawyers, but they are family. Call the G law firm. I did.
The first thing that you need to do is to make sure you get yourself to as safe place as you can. Find yourself a competent attorney who practices in personal injury and will understand some of the things that you're going through. And as I tell people, for 33 years I've been doing this. I've had my own accident. So I would like to be one of those individuals that they would interview so I can at least try to find out how I can best help them myself.
What was that move?
Just gotta know what that was.
Yeah. What?
It's whatever you want.
Oh, whatever you want.
Hey, maybe I got it. Hey, everybody. This is your boy Cruz, the Beast from the East, and we are here tonight on a special edition of Let's Talk Tuesday, but on a Wednesday night. It's not Wild and Out Wednesday. Y'all gonna behave tonight, right? Okay, all right. We got a special guest tonight, but you know how we do before we get into what we're getting into tonight and introduce our guest. We got to pay some bills because we got to keep these fluorescent lights on. So, as we always say here, if you've been involved in an accident, it's no fault of your own. Make sure that you call the G Law Firm. Why? Because they're reliable, relentless, and they got a great reputation. They've been serving Richmond for over 40 years. So you want somebody that's going to tell you the truth about your case. They're not going to send you on these wild goose chases till you call a phone number, which is going to equate to the amount of money that you're going to get from some company. That's just asinine. So don't get fooled and tricked into all of the shenanigans that you hear on some of these radio stations and all these promises. Call the G Law Firm at 804-226-4111. Why? Because you can depend on them to tell you exactly the nuts and bolts of your case. You can call for a free consultation, or you can go to the email at glawfirm.com and talk to that young lady there. You probably will end up talking to her when you call in or you do your intake form. But again, we certainly appreciate the G Law Firm for sponsoring not only tonight's show, but Let's Talk Tuesday, week in and week out. Cruise Inc. Radio 102.8 every week. Go there 24/7 for the best internet music that you will find. It is, again, I got my own slogan. That is crazy. But anyway, the best internet station for smooth jazz, R&B, gospel, and more. We are your award-winning radio station. All right, y'all, we paid the bills now. Indeed.
Good job.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have the one and only in the house.
In the
building. Y'all don't understand. She's in the building. And we're so glad to have Miss Colette Wallace McEachin, the Honorable
There you go.
Colette Wallace
Respect on that
McEachin.
name.
Yeah, you got to put some respect on that.
Yes.
I can see where the show is going. It doesn't look good. It does not look good for me. All right. I'm ready.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Guys, she is your Commonwealth attorney here for the City of Richmond. And she's been doing this. We're going to get into how long and all the nuts and bolts. But first of all, welcome, Ms.
Great to be
Wallace
back.
McEachin.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me. I'm glad that I have not outworn my welcome,
Absolutely.
and you're willing to have me back on the show, and hope we're having a good conversation.
Absolutely. So glad you're
Absolutely.
here.
Yeah, we're glad to hear it. Taking time out of your busy schedule. You have a lot going on. I don't know what y'all doing, but I'll remind me tomorrow on that one. See, I tell you, it's good. But again, before we get into all of the campaign talk and talk about what you got going on in the building downtown, look, y'all ain't gonna be bothering me now. I'm telling you, we ain't gonna be doing that. Let's talk about all things Colette, because I got some little.
Oh dear. Where we going with the tangent?
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, I got a few little questions. First of all, let's talk about Colette Wallace and what was life like for Colette Wallace, the young Colette Wallace, the energetic, looking for just the young you in terms of high school and going on to college.
Okay, I was every mother's dream. So, my mother was a public school teacher. My father was in the Army and worked for HUD, and I'm the oldest of 4 children. And so they ran a very tight ship, a loving ship, a very firm ship. Go to church every Sunday, be polite, say yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And I was a natural rule follower. I'm not someone to necessarily break or bend rules, which probably is why I'm a pretty good attorney, and went into the law. And so I love school. I love books. I love reading. I liked babysitting and taking care of little children. I had my first job at 15, and I've worked, every year for the rest of my life.
So your Social Security gonna be nice.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
Oh, we have one.
Let's hope. Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah. And so I have to say I was a pretty good kid. I might have bent some rules, but I didn't break any rules because I grew up in a time that you all may remember where what you did reflected on your parents, it reflected on your community, it reflected on your church. And I took that all to heart, and I didn't want to embarrass my parents. I didn't want to make them unhappy or upset. And so, I told the straight and narrow line.
Again, you mentioned that your father was in the military. He was a lieutenant colonel, and we just celebrated Memorial Day. So, again, we want to recognize on this show all those that sacrificed and so that we can even be here talking tonight. A lot of people just take the freedoms that we have for granted. And I wish that some of our young people would go back and we study, American history and study about the sacrifices, and especially African Americans that were involved in wars. We had a lot of heroes, and for that time period, for your dad to make it to that rank is phenomenal. And congratulations to him and kudos, and really appreciate his service.
He enjoyed being in the Army. He was in ROTC when he was in college, and married my mother, who was his classmate, 6 months after they both graduated. And then on his first duty in Colorado, I was born at Fort Carson. So I was born on an Army base. My brother, who's 20 months younger than I am, was born in Germany when we got shipped over there. And my son joined the Army and did his tour of duty. So we like you and like Angela recognize and value the service that people are willing to give to their country and to their fellow man and sister to keep us safe and protected.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I don't really have any questions because I think God needs to still carry us because we went through high school.
Okay.
So we're at college level.
Okay.
From college, you went from where?
Went to Brown University for college in Providence, Rhode Island.
Okay.
So I'm a New England
It's
girl.
always here.
No, oh, no,
No,
not at all. I'm from Connecticut.
Wait. My research tells me there was a stop before Connecticut. Somebody grew up down on 95 South.
No, your
Oh.
research is incorrect, sir.
Well, we need, I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna call you.
Are we gonna do
No.
a fact check?
I'm gonna call your people later on. Tell them
Okay.
they need to say. No, seriously, it's like I read something. That's how you got to be careful what you read out here on social media. That you all had a stint in North Carolina before you went to New Haven, Connecticut.
Both of those would be wrong.
Wow.
But since I was actually living the life, I can tell you what
Yeah,
happened.
please tell.
Okay.
Please tell us, cause y'all better believe y'all will get a call from me, my research team. I don't like to be look like a fool.
Mistakes happen.
Oh, so this was your research team.
Yeah,
Okay, it's like these were not my people.
Oh, okay. Get your people straight.
I know.
So I was born in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
My parents did their tour of duty in Germany,
Right.
came back. They had grown up in South Carolina, and they made the decision not to raise their children in what was still Jim Crow segregated South. And so they decided when they came back from Germany to move to Connecticut. And so I grew up in Connecticut from the age of 3 on. Had a great upbringing, loved growing up in Connecticut. My little town of Bloomfield had all 20,000 people in it. So it was very much kind of like Ashland, Virginia.
Okay.
Bloomfield was very much like that. And then went 2 hours east to Providence, Rhode Island for college at Brown. Had a great time at Brown, made lifelong friends, pledged Delta Sigma Theta.
Oh, here we go.
And then after college, decided I would take time off while I figured out whether I wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Oh, okay.
Not a doctor, a teacher or a lawyer. And finally decided to be a lawyer. And so spent 4 years in Boston between college and starting law school. So when I went to law school, I was slightly older than a lot of people who went directly through.
Mhm.
And went to UVA, met Donald the following year because he was a year behind me. And graduated, went off to work for a private firm in Atlanta.
Okay.
Donald and I kept dating. You see, your research people didn't tell you anything
So
about
Donald
this.
was here
Donald
and
was a
you was
Richmond
in
boy.
Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah, Donald was a Richmond boy.
Okay.
He also was born in Germany because his father was in the army,
I remember that.
but he actually grew up in Richmond.
Okay.
And so he told me when we were dating that he was always going to come back home to Richmond. He
Okay.
was his parents' only child. He wanted to be around them. And I'm the oldest of 4. And I had been, I was older than Donald. I'm the oldest of 4. And so where I lived was not as big a deal to me as it was to him.
Okay.
And so it's like, okay, well, we're going to keep dating and evidently being serious. And I guess I'm going to leave Atlanta and move to Richmond. And so the first time I ever saw Richmond was after I graduated from law school and had been dating Donald for a while. I moved here and the rest is history.
Well, and that's amazing. And my research thing said reading is fundamental because right here it says South Carolina. So again, I need to go get my glasses changed.
There you go. You need one of those lens wipes. Yeah.
It's a little foggy. I did get part of it right. I said down South 95. So
Yeah,
I was
South
in the area.
Carolina's the south of
Yeah.
95,
Yeah.
south of the border.
But,
Pedro, south of the border.
but you can be proud that your website is correct.
Good. Don't want any false information on my own website. That would be a bad look.
Yeah, again, that's why I said mine is a terrible thing to waste. I went to a HBCU. I can read. I just misread.
That whole North South Carolina
Right.
thing, right?
Hey, it's a few miles apart, right?
That's true. They border each other. That's true.
Okay, well, we're good. I feel safe now.
That is too funny. So you started practicing law here
Well, in
Once you-
Atlanta,
but once you met Donald and you decided to move here to Richmond, then what were you doing at that point?
when I moved to Richmond,
Mhm.
moved to Richmond, had to take the Virginia bar. We haven't just taken the Georgia bar, so I had to take 2 bars in 3
Mm.
years, which was proof of my love for Donald because I took a second bar exam in order to practice in Virginia. And I worked for a small firm down at 7th and Main downtown and was doing work for them and then ran into David Hicks, who's
Okay.
currently a judge on the Richmond General District Court. And he and Donald had been in the same class at law school, a year behind me. So we knew each other. And he said, "Oh, you should come work at the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. You'll get really good trial experience. It's a lot of fun. You'll get to know the city that way because of all the cases." And I was like, "Okay, I was new to the city, and I thought, well, I'll try that." And so I did, and I never left. It's been the best job ever.
Oh, wonderful.
Best job ever.
And it's going on, what, 20 plus years now?
30 years.
30
What?
years.
30 years. Yeah.
That's
Come
amazing.
on,
So
yay.
we're talking about 30 years of experience in public service.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. And kudos, you still look good.
Amazing. Yes.
Yeah, you still
Good
look
gene pool for my parents. Good gene pool.
absolutely phenomenal. Again, you mentioned, or it was mentioned rather, hopefully I read this one correctly, that the spark for law came about from an interest with the Black Panthers. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, sure. So when I was growing up, it was the tail end of the civil rights movement. And so the Black Panther Party was coming into the forefront. The women's ERA revolution was coming into the forefront. The Vietnam War was going on. All of that was happening. And the New Haven part is that is where a trial for one of the Black Panthers was. And New Haven is only an hour from where I grew up. And so even though I wasn't able to go down and see the trial, it was in the papers. Everybody was talking about it. It was a huge deal. And because I'm a history nerd and I like reading, I was in high school reading about this Black Panther trial. And that just really intrigued me because I saw what the justice system could do to try to make right a wrong that had been committed against a Black Panther member. And so ultimately, the people who were accused of killing him, who were other Black Panther members, I think, I'm not going to say it. You'd have to, your research sheet would have to Google it. I don't even remember if they were convicted or not. But to see, in Connecticut at that time, a whole bunch of strong Black men with the same kind of revolutionary bent, but 2 or 3 of them were accused of killing another one, just really struck home for me. And I thought, you know what? I want to be an attorney and help people. I didn't even know what the difference was between a criminal defense attorney and a prosecutor or a civil attorney. But I thought, I want to be a lawyer. And that's what started it.
We're thankful that you are, and we're thankful that, Mr. Donald courted you and persuaded you to come here to Richmond.
I was never going to be in Richmond otherwise. I was going to go back home to Connecticut.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was just going to come
You're
to
just going to
UVA.
leave that life of Atlanta and all the things that it had to offer, the glitz and the glamour, and go back
Go
to
back home to Connecticut.
local
Connecticut,
Connecticut.
little New England, Connecticut. Yeah.
It must be something. Isn't that quite a few politicians that come out of that Connecticut area?
Well, George Bush's father, George Bush, grew up in Connecticut. Lowell Weicker, Ella Grasso was the first female governor of Connecticut in the 70s. So I don't know. Watching Martha Stewart or something.
Martha Stewart.
Martha Stewart.
We're gonna go ahead. So now, the Commonwealth's office is still a predominantly male, white field. Am I correct in that assumption?
So yes, the most prosecutors are white men across the country, and then also in the state of Virginia. So less than 1% of prosecutors are Black females. So I'm 1% of the 1%. And then, of course, I was the first Black female prosecutor to be elected in the city of Richmond. And that happened in 2020. So it took that long.
We were there.
We're there.
Yep.
You're all very supportive. Very supportive.
So
Why be a prosecutor or?
why there are no Black?
Well, it's not that there aren't any, but
There are some, but it's more.
yeah. So So when you think about the pyramid, it's almost like
Okay.
a pyramid. So
Okay,
think about, just very generally, think about all the Black people in the country.
okay.
Then, so that's the bottom of the pyramid, right?
Mhm,
And then some of those people are going to go to college.
mhm,
And then some of those people are going to go to law school.
okay.
And then some of those people are going to pass the bar exam. And then some of those people will decide to practice criminal law. And then some of those people who are willing to practice criminal law
Mhm.
will become prosecutors and will stay in the job for as long as I have for 30 years. So you get to a very small point of that
Okay.
pyramid.
Okay.
Because it's a hard job. I have looked at photos of people beaten, raped, infants killed, read forensic nurse examinations about people being sodomized, and just seeing incredible brutality by people against people. And that's really when people say, why are you still doing this? You've been doing this for 30 years. Aren't you tired or whatever? And it's like, no, I'm even more energized because I'm so affronted and offended that we are still doing this to each other.
Right.
We're still doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Maya Angelou, we all know that famous saying that Maya Angelou, which is when you know better, you do better. It's like, okay, people, we know better.
When we gonna do that?
When are we gonna do better?
You know, and just mentioning all the things that you've seen over the years, it's still amazing that you have not become jaded, because that is a field like, unfortunately, a lot of people that are, in law enforcement in some form or another, they see so much and they go through so much, and after a while, you become numb and almost callous. How do you maintain your balance in terms of still keeping that passion for helping people?
Uh, I really think it's my upbringing. My mother is luckily still with us. She's 93, and you've met her.
Yeah, lovely,
yeah.
lovely lady.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's very active, but she and my father were always very involved in the community. And I was raised in the church, and I'm still, an active churchgoer at St. Peter's in Henrico. And I don't want a victim to feel as though the criminal justice system did not pay attention to them because they were a woman, or they were Black, or they didn't speak English well, or they were poor, or they didn't live in the right zip code, or they're a drug user. I want people to have all the support that I had growing up as a child, and I had as an adult. And obviously, I can't do that. I can't replicate being people's parents. But I really look at it as like, what can my office do to help you, the victim, first of all, recover from this horrible thing that happened to you?
Right.
But also, like, what can I do with or for a defendant so that you don't do this again, so you don't reoffend, so you address your root cause of your problem, whether it's you have a drug habit, or you have a substance abuse issue, or you have a mental health issue, or you're homeless and that's why you keep getting charged with trespass. My office really tries to figure that out, and that's what keeps me energized. It's like, how can we fix this? How can we fix this?
But you're not in the courtroom, right?
I'm not in the courtroom as much now, but I try to at least keep my fingers in and handle one or two cases a year. So last year, I spent a lot of time with two very experienced prosecutors in the office doing the Amari Pollard Huguenot High School homicide that occurred at Monroe Park. And then before that, there was another homicide. And then for Southside, since we're over on Southside, I guess in 2023, maybe, I worked with a prosecutor on charging a police officer for running into two teenagers and killing them.
I missed that.
Yeah, that was a very high profile case. There were a lot of nuances there, and that that creates a whole different dynamics, because not only you have to work alongside the officers and the police department and to then have to,
Charge one of their own.
yeah,
Yeah.
that can be a catch-22 sometimes, in your opinion, can it?
Yeah. It is a difficult decision, and it's kind of fraught with those issues that you brought up. But ultimately, if a crime has been committed by someone, it shouldn't matter who the person is.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
And
Yeah.
so the fact that you were a police officer and did whatever the thing was, whether it's a vehicular homicide or child abuse or whatever, your badge does not protect you from
Right.
from the rule of law, and it shouldn't protect you from the rule of law because you should be upholding the rule of law.
Mhm.
So, luckily, because I grew up in the Richmond prosecutor's office as an attorney, I've been doing this for 30 years. I have 30 years of relationships with the police
Mm-hmm.
and with their superiors and their supervisors, with the chief of police,
Yeah.
who I remember when he was just a patrol officer, and then he was a homicide detective, and then he was Rick and I have a really good relationship. We talk frequently. We check with each other about various issues. He doesn't run my office. I don't run his office. But to your point, Cruz, we know that when our two offices collaborate and work well together to address a victim's issue and to create public safety, that reverberates and creates public safety for the whole city.
You and I, we've talked on a number of occasions. We do law 101, and to this day, it still amazes me how people get it convoluted in terms of the responsibility of the police department, the responsibility of the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, and the responsibility of the General Assembly, because people still don't understand that it's the General Assembly that creates the laws for the Commonwealth, and it's your job as the Commonwealth Attorney to basically enforce those laws, and it's up to the police department to make sure that they bring those that break the law into custody or make sure that they're charged.
There you go. You might as well be a lawyer. There you go, right there.
How is anybody confused though?
No,
Why do you feel like people are confused?
because
What
I
are they
hear it
confused
every
about?
day. They always blaming Colette if if certain laws and things that are on the books, and say, well, I wish I could come up with some prime examples right now, but trust me, every day if you read a shooting or if you read about some type of homicide, they're going to mention her name and say, well, the Commonwealth Attorney is not doing her job or their job. That's frequent.
But damn it, y'all Google everything else. Google that.
Yeah.
Google that and get that right. You Google everything else.
And I'm so glad I was in the professor's class here, and all that information, I watched you a little bit. She taught me well, but then having worked in the Commonwealth Attorney's office down in Petersburg, I've been tutored by two great Black females in the Commonwealth. So again, but I know that has to be extremely difficult. And sometimes I take it a little personal. I'll see something, and I was like,
Thank you for defending my honor. I appreciate that.
well, it's because again, it's to me, and I can say this because this is my show, and maybe I can't kick me off of it. It's ignorance at its best.
Yeah.
I'm like you, AK. If you don't know something, the World Wide Web,
Yeah.
you can find out a lot
The
of
information is there. Yeah. And so for those people who are listening, if you want to know, like, well, what is she actually doing? Like, I'm hearing all this talking. What does the office actually do? You can put in your browser rva.gov, which we all know is the city website, and then every city agency and department is listed in that website. And the Commonwealth Attorney's Office has a page, and you can click on the page, and within that are 5 or 6 or 7 pages about what we've done, what we do, some statistics, how you can get in touch with the precinct prosecutor who's responsible for being a liaison between our office and the police and different community groups. There's just a wealth of information, as you say, NK, if you Google it.
Yeah. Shout out
I'm just
to
trying to figure out how they get all that confused and they want to blame somebody.
Cause reading is fun to me.
That's that damn Richmond, Virginia.
Wouldn't
Y'all
happen
don't-
where you came from. Wouldn't happen where you came from.
Come on. Y'all get that together, okay?
It's
that together.
amazing. Hey, Tish Irving, again from the, she's a PTA member, very active, and she and I have conversations, and she, asks questions about, in terms of what you do. So let's talk about some of the things that you have implemented under your watch as the Commonwealth attorney.
Sure. So I think, and hopefully what most people have heard me say over and over again for the past 4 years is restorative justice. And that is a new policy that I brought into the office. It's a not old idea, but it is a long-standing idea, 50 or 60 years old. Actually, started in Eastern Mennonite University, I think on the western side of Virginia. And the point of restorative justice is to provide an alternative to the traditional criminal justice system, which is very much based on the defendant, what the defendant did, how we're going to punish the defendant, the witnesses against the defendant. Everything is very defendant focused. As the Commonwealth's attorney, I'm very concerned about what's happening with the victim and how they are being served. And so restorative justice is very victim focused. What practically happens is if someone is arrested for a nonviolent offense in the city of Richmond, or in a non-domestic violence related offense, because then in a domestic violence situation, not equities, but there's a power dynamic. There's an emotional power dynamic that sometimes overshadows better thinking, perhaps. But we have two strangers or two neighbors or two people who are constantly in contact, and somebody finally snapped and damaged property, wrote graffiti, broke something, maybe threw something at somebody, didn't injure them seriously. The person was charged, so now they're an offender. They've got a criminal charge that would generally go through the criminal justice system. Once they get their attorney, because every defendant gets an attorney, whether you pay for him or her or the court appoints one, my office, my prosecutors would go to the attorney because prosecutors cannot ever speak directly with people who are charged with a crime. So we would go to the attorney and say, look, we've spoken with the victim, and the victim would like to have this converted to a restorative justice event. Is your client willing to do that? And hopefully the defense attorney goes back to the client and says, look, the Commonwealth is making this offer. If you want to do restorative justice, you and the victim will talk to each other directly, face to face. There'll be a trained facilitator who will facilitate that conversation. You and the victim will decide what you can do, offender, to make the victim whole. You clean the graffiti, you write a letter of apology, you make restitution within 90 days or something, whatever the victim wants and needs to feel like, okay, what happened to me has been addressed. And in addition, a lot of times the victim just wants the opportunity to look at the offender and be like, yo, why did you do that? Why my car? Why me? Why this? Why? You could have picked somebody else. What is it? So a lot of times just having that conversation makes the victim feel like, I finally got to say my piece. Somebody finally listened to what I had to say. And not only was it a judge, it was the person who did the harm. So that's part of the reason that restorative justice is so good and exciting. And then once the offender does whatever it is that he and she and the victim have agreed upon, the victim lets my office know and the charge is dismissed. So that's a win for the victim. The victim got what he or she wanted. The problem was fixed or solved as best it could be. It's a win for the defendant because now that my office has dismissed the charge, and sometimes the charge is just reduced, but if the charge is actually dismissed, it can then be expunged. And then it's not on your record. So that's a win for the defendant. So restorative justice is just a great policy and program, and that's one of the things that I'm most pleased about bringing to Richmond.
Because that's just one of many programs that you've done. you are in what I would consider a proactive mode in terms of not being just the norm in terms of a prosecutor's office, just throwing people in jail. Because that's the tag that you all get is that all they want to do is throw people in jail. How do you address that when people say, she don't care about them, she just want to put, especially black people, just want to put us in jail?
Yeah. I mean, sadly, historically, there was some validity in that. But what I do say to people is, if you're going to be a prosecutor in 2025 and be a good prosecutor, you can't do that. That can't be your mindset. And that's certainly not the mindset of my office. And so what I tell people is there are some violent crimes for which jail is appropriate, for which prison is appropriate, for which basketball numbers of a sentence are appropriate. And then there are a whole host of crimes which can be addressed without incarceration, without a jail sentence. Maybe it's a suspended sentence. So you're convicted, but you're not actually having to serve time. But that sentence is hanging over your head, and you know you need to stay on the straight and narrow. Maybe it's making the restitution. The victim doesn't even want to see you in jail. A lot of times, not a lot of times, but often my office is contacted by victims who say, I know this person. They were drunk, they were high, they were upset about something else. I don't even want them to go to jail. I just want money to fix the door or whatever the case might be. And as long as the offender is not somebody who's violent, who's a recidivist, then, that's something we will consider. So as I tell people many times, there are lots of entrances and exits off the criminal justice highway. And my office tries to provide as many exits as possible.
Yeah, I think a good candidate for your office, because this person can target the black off an 8 ball,
Okay.
and will stand 10 toes down if she believes she's right.
Okay.
And that young lady right there,
I was like, I wonder who he's talking about.
because if she get a point,
I just want somebody to make it make sense. Just make it make sense. That's all I'm saying.
Even if you don't agree with it, like
just
make it logical.
Make some kind of yes. And some things you talk about makes no damn sense.
Just because you don't haven't heard the word befuddle, and
you make it up stuff. Make it up stuff.
Look,
just make it make sense.
We're from Tennessee, okay, so we have our own vocabulary.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, we do.
You don't even have a definition for some of the words that you say.
This is like playing Scrabble.
Bring out a word that I use.
You didn't say it on the show.
See, that's your point. I rest my case.
Befuddled?
No.
I heard befuddled.
You probably did. But
that
wasn't one of them. You said something that you literally made up on the spot.
Oh, I would not do that.
See, I wouldn't tell you did it. Just the way you just said it.
Let's roll back the tape.
Rewind.
Yeah, we're going to go back and look at some of those shows, and some of the words that I use. They are legitimate Tennessee words.
She's not buying it. They're Tennessee words.
They're Tennessee words.
They're not Virginia words. They're Tennessee words.
Yeah, Commonwealth is
not
different.
No state words, but Tennessee proud.
Yeah, I told you, look, she's still gonna argue.
Yep.
All right. Now you got some blue cards.
Got some blue cards.
All right.
Yep. So I wanted to show you and Angela. And I'm going to leave some with Angela because I know that she has a lot of concerns and a lot of support in the Hispanic community. Yeah. So these blue cards, I guess I'm blocked out. No? Yep. There we go. Okay. So these blue cards have been created and published by my office.
Okay.
And they have the rights of every non-documented person in Spanish and English.
Oh, yes.
So many people are concerned about being taken by ICE or ICE, accosting them on the street. And I wanted people to know you have rights even if you are here as an undocumented person. And so people can carry these in their back pocket, their wallet, their backpack, and just be reassured that you still have rights under the United States Constitution. So in Spanish and English, you have the right to remain silent. and you don't have to discuss your immigration or citizenship status. If you're not a U.S. citizen and an immigration agent requests your papers, you must show them if you have them. Do not lie about your citizenship status. You have the right to refuse to consent a search of yourself, your car, or your home, just like a U.S. citizen. If you're not under arrest, like a U.S. citizen, you have the right to walk away. You have the right to a lawyer, even if you can't afford one, just like a U.S. citizen. So I wanted people, especially in the Hispanic community, who are so on alert and alarmed right now because of what they've seen the Trump administration carry out. But also, we have other immigrants in the Richmond community. We have Haitian immigrants, we have Asian immigrants, and so these apply to anyone who has some undocumented status. So these are going to be distributed throughout the city of Richmond, and I hope that people will take advantage of it.
Definitely.
Good.
Yeah, it really is, especially that part about you have the right to refuse to consent to a search of yourself, your car, or your home. And I'm a crime law junkie. I'll spend, binge on Law and Order.
Going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, and I'm a Perry Mason fan and all that kind of stuff. And you always, especially on what's the cops, you always see people going back and forth with police officers and about whether they have the right to search the vehicle, whatever. And there's a thing called probable cause. And I don't want to get into it because I want to talk about the election. I want to talk about some of the things that, again, you're continuing to do out here. But what is probable cause? What would define that for a lot of people, especially in layman's terms?
So I'm trying to think how to do this best because it is a difficult term, as you said, for a layperson to gather. Probable cause means that it is more likely than not that something has happened. And so in the United States, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the police have to have probable cause to arrest you. They have to have more than a reasonable suspicion. They actually have to have probable cause. It doesn't mean that they have to have proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And so sometimes people think mistakenly that, oh, well, they don't have all of this evidence at this point. Well, at that point, they don't have to. You can have probable cause in January, and then by the time you're tried in June, other evidence has been gathered, and now the Commonwealth has enough evidence to bring before a jury or a judge to hopefully prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So that's what probable cause is.
And that's a good thing to know because everybody wants to be a jailhouse lawyer, a street lawyer, and
everybody knows what TikTok tells them about the law.
Yeah, exactly. Which leads to the segue here. You've had 30 years of doing this. On average, what would you say somebody that wants to be the Commonwealth's attorney, how many years would they need to even realistically want to be the head of that office?
I don't know what they would realistically want, how many years, but you certainly have to have more than the 10 months that my opponent had. It didn't even last a year in the Commonwealth Attorney's office. So I think when you look at 10 months versus 30 years, when you think about minimal relationships versus the relationships I've built over 30 years and the contacts in my cell phone, which is where all our contacts are, when you think about the changes that I have seen in the criminal justice system and how I have been able to use those changes to benefit the citizens and residents of Richmond, then I think you have to have at least, I don't know, maybe successfully prosecuted a murder case, which my opponent has not done. Successfully prosecuted a felony sex case, which my opponent has not done. Successfully prosecuted a malicious wounding case, which he has not done. Because he only lasted for 10 months. So I think that is what is important for any Commonwealth is to actually have successful trial experience that you can bring to your community to provide them with the public safety and support that they deserve.
How many attorneys are in your office?
Right now, 41.
41. So therefore, you would have to also have some managerial experience as well in terms of supervising people, knowing how to disperse the workload. How is the workload dispersed in your office? Because some people think that you just hand pick who gets this case. Is that a fallacy?
Yeah, so Richmond is somewhat unique in that there are 120 different counties and cities in the state of Virginia. So there's Chesterfield, there's Richmond, there's Hanover, right. They each have their own Commonwealth attorney who is elected by the voters in that district. And so you can imagine that an office in a rural jurisdiction like Bath County or Wythe County looks a lot different than Newport News, Hampton, Richmond, Fairfax, Alexandria, right? So each office is very localized, which is good because I'm representing and responding to my constituents. So the way that we train our attorneys in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office is they generally come in right from law school, but sometimes we laterally hire. And they would start off in the 2 general district court houses, so either in the juvenile domestic relations court or in the general district court in Manchester, and on the second floor, the John Marshall Courthouse. And that's how you would learn to be a prosecutor, how you handle misdemeanor crimes, how you decide on bail, how you work with officers to construct a case and put it together for trial in misdemeanor court. So you'd spend a year, and then maybe after the first year, you start second chairing, that is sitting with someone who's leading a case.
Okay.
And so if you're interested in a robbery, an aggravated wounding, a shooting, a burglary, you'd say, hey, can I sit in? Can I watch you? And maybe learn how to cross-examine a witness or do a direct examination on a witness or learn about the different pieces of evidence that come in. And so you slowly build that skill set over time until, because it's Richmond and because of the number and variety of crimes that we have, by the time you've been a prosecutor in Richmond, you have tried hundreds of cases.
Okay.
And you have hopefully got to the point where you can be trusted to be the lead prosecutor on a felony, burglary, robbery, rape, sodomy, child abuse. And then you just keep getting better and better. And at some point, you start supervising younger attorneys. And then eventually, if you get to the point where everything works out, you'll become a deputy Commonwealth attorney. And so that was my trajectory over 30 years. I started off as just a line prosecutor, doing a daily docket 3 days a week and prepping the other 2 for that docket. And I did that in juvenile domestic relations court and in general district court, north of the river and south of the river, and worked my way up to being a deputy. Took 4 years off to be at home with my kids. Came back part-time as a prosecutor in traffic court. Worked my way back up to being a deputy. And now I'm the elected Commonwealth attorney.
Hello. And I want to, she's very soft-spoken. So just in case you all didn't hear, because I'm boisterous, hundreds of cases now before you can either start to move up to where, again, you're becoming a first chair, you're becoming a supervisor of others, and then getting to the level of deputy Commonwealth attorney. Hundreds. Let that sink in. So you don't get hundreds by working in that 10 months. We got to make it make sense. See, that's what I'm trying to make it make sense. Because some people are going to go out here and you're going to not use logic. Come on, people. Would you let somebody that just read a law book, or no, let me put it like this, just read a dentistry book, and had never pulled a tooth, come and get into your mouth versus an experienced orthodontist or somebody that has experience working with teeth. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Well, it's obvious this guy wasted his time.
So
Well,
I
I
hope the
don't know if
voters.
I don't know if he just woke up one day and said, "I'm gonna do this." He goes, "What's the matter?"
I hope the voters in Richmond agree with you.
and that's what we're trying to hammer home tonight. Is that you just don't hand your life over or the lives of people over somebody that has some type of.
They ain't done nothing. Let's just go say what this is. Done nothing.
That's the second chair right there.
Yeah.
Well, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. This is so clean cut and dry. What are we talking about? Nothing from nothing leaves nothing.
You should make that a song.
Go ahead, just write that one up. I think it might be a hit somewhere. Hey, Miss Williams, appreciate it. Let me see if I can catch some of these. Y'all got these questions rolling in here. Let me go back up here. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Say he jumped off the porch and said, "I want the job today." I love our audience.
What he said?
She said, "Wait a minute, let me put that back up there again, because that is a valid point." He jumped off the porch and said, "I want that job today."
Yeah, he did something.
Yeah, that's about as brilliant as me saying, I want to be a truck driver without going to school.
No CDL license.
Yeah, no nothing. Oh, that looks good. The Walmart drivers look like they make a lot of money. Let me just go jump in this truck, Again, just people, we got to use a lot of common sense when we are getting out here voting, because if not, we're going to end up what we end up in the White House, because people are voting on emotions rather than logic. And logic, again, to me, for somebody that's been out there, did both of them, moved off of emotions and learned how to move off of logic. And I promise you, I like logic a lot better than I do emotions, because emotions will have you all over the place and doing stupid things.
Yes. Yes.
What else we got out here? Some other comments.
I
You
think
got
this man is gonna win. So that's just gonna be is what
That's
it
right.
is. And if for some reason this knucklehead getting off, you get what you get. Okay,
Yeah.
that's why we got what we got as president right now.
Mm.
So I'm just saying, go out and vote for this
Please
woman.
vote. Please vote.
Yeah, the
Yep.
experience
Can we
is
talk about the
there.
election?
It's there.
Yeah,
The
let's
experience
talk
is
about the
there.
election. Yeah, we're getting down to the nuts and bolts here. Of course, we still in the early voting
Yes,
stage?
until
Okay.
Monday. Well, actually, until Saturday before the primary. So, to everybody out there who's listening, you two already know
Mhm.
that early voting starts beginning of May,
Mhm.
and it goes through until June 14th. The primary is June 17th, 2 days after Father's Day. So Father's Day is Sunday, Monday, and then the primary is the 17th.
Papa's Day coming up.
Somebody here?
Papa's Day coming up.
Somebody here?
We just need everybody to go vote.
We're gonna stay on task. We're gonna stay on task.
Yep.
So I need everyone who is registered to
Right.
go vote. I don't
Yes.
want anyone to think that I am taking for granted
Right.
the fact that I have been with the office for 30 years, that I have that level of experience, that I have rolled out these programs. We haven't even talked about the Family Justice Center, which I hope to roll out with the help of the YWCA in my next 4 years. And so there is still a lot to be accomplished, but it won't be accomplished if you just assume, oh, she's got this. She's been doing this for a while.
Mhm.
We know her.
Mhm.
Please get up, vote now at the Laburnum Registrar's Office on Laburnum Avenue. You can go anytime, Monday through Friday, starting this coming Monday, June 2nd.
Okay.
You can also vote on South Side at the Hickory Hill Community Center, and you can vote at City Hall. So there will be
Okay.
3 places to vote in the next 2 weeks. Please get out and vote.
Again, we cannot overemphasize voting for somebody that has been involved in an election and campaigned on several other fronts as well. Uh, we have to stop taking our rights for granted and say your vote don't count because you just never know what that margin of victory or defeat may be. It is just can be just that crucial sometimes. So uh, people, I'm going to tell you this, and we're going to go back because I want to talk about some of the other goals you have also. But again, if you want to change things, the General Assembly is one of the important races that we have in the Commonwealth because, again, this lady here, she doesn't make the laws, she doesn't make the rules. Her job is to enforce the rules. Can we all say enforce? How about put a hashtag out there, enforce, all right? The laws and everything. So if you mad about a particular law, don't get mad at her. Go down there and talk to your representatives, talk to your state senators and those people that again every day have the responsibilities of making laws not only for Richmond, for the entire Commonwealth of Virginia. So we got a lot of laws coming out January, July 1st.
Yeah.
Some of these seatbelt laws. You used to be able to ride in the back seat, not have a seatbelt on. If you get pulled over, guess what? You can get a
Yes.
ticket too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So
And to your point, in addition, so I'm on the ballot as Commonwealth's attorney. I have an opponent. But there are also a primary for the June 17th primary, lieutenant governor race, the attorney general race, and then come November, every seat in the House of Delegates. So 100 people will be running for office or reelection in November. So the next 6 or 7 months are going to be crucial to decide not only what happens in the city of Richmond with my race, but what happens in the state come November.
absolutely. You got an invite here.
Okay.
All right. So
Yeah, absolutely.
have your people to call her people.
I'm at the Commonwealth Attorney's office 5 days a week in the courthouse.
Now let's go back and talk about what you want to roll out with the family.
Justice Center.
Justice Center, yes.
Yes. So, just like restorative justice was something that I hope will be my legacy to the city of Richmond and to the criminal justice system, the Family Justice Center is a one-stop shop for women who've been victims of domestic violence or intimate partner violence. If you can envision, a lot of times a woman has been in an emotionally troubled and violent relationship for a while. Excuse me, she may or may not have children with that person. And she has finally gotten the courage and been desperate enough that she's going to take her children and leave. Where does she go? How does she get her mental health restored to her? Who's going to take care of her physical abuse, the strangulation marks, the punches, the beatings, the knifings? Where's she going to live? He's kicked her out or she's left. Where's she going to go? So a family justice center, instead of the woman having to, let me go to the courthouse and get a protective order. Now let me go to MCD and see if they can see me for my physical abuse. Now let me go to the school and explain to the school why my child might be acting differently because we're now temporarily homeless. Now let me go to DSS, see if I can get some SNAP benefits or EBT card. Instead of her having to do all that while she is in the middle of all of this emotional trauma, the Family Justice Center is one building, and all of those representatives are there. There is someone from the police department if she wants to actually take out a charge. There is someone from the magistrate's office who can hear the protective order petition or the judge. There is someone from the Department of Social Services who can get her set up for EBT. There is somebody from the schools who can make the connection between her and the school system as to what services her child needs. She only has to go to one place. Everything else comes to her. That's family justice.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That's what I
That's
want to bring to
amazing.
Richmond.
The Walmart of family justice.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know,
Love it.
again, that's what you're talking about being, thinking outside the box, being, you know, innovative and seeing the need and coming up with a solution. A lot of people can bring you problems. Very few people can bring you solutions. So, you know, kudos to you for, again, looking down the road and saying, okay, how can we better serve the community, especially, you know, women that are already terrified, already being intimidated and things like that. We see it doing, you know, the puppy trial here, how that young lady is, you know, that she had to get the nerves up. And we saw on video how he, you know, dragged her, beat her, and these cases,
So
apparently,
complex, so
yeah,
dramatic.
that's
Yes.
what I was about to ask you. You know, they're not just cut and dry. They're not just open and closed black and white cases all the time, are they?
No, not at all. None of them. Because it is one thing when a stranger attacks you,
Mhm.
you don't have any emotional connection.
Right.
And so you may be fearful of retaliation because of where you live or something like that. But there's no emotional connection. If the father of your children is the person who is beating you, who is emotionally abusive, physically abusive, mentally abusive, but who is also the breadwinner of the home, or does not let you have money, or does not let you have access to a car. He's the one who your children see
Or she,
beating you.
or she.
Usually a he.
It's usually, yeah.
Oh,
Usually it is
okay.
usually a he.
But for the record, or she.
Occasionally there's a she.
One kind of blue moon.
Then that emotional dynamic is so powerful
Right.
that it scares and prevents a lot of women from either coming forward or being willing to stick with a case long enough for us to get the case to trial. And so this family justice center will hopefully provide enough support early enough that they will feel empowered to continue with the process. And part of the reason that family justice center is so important is because a lot of gun violence and other violence that's perpetrated by offenders can be traced back to them growing up in a violent domestic situation, seeing their mother beaten by their father, seeing their father having guns all the time and using them and not taking any repercussions. So a family justice center will actually help reduce the overall level of gun violence because it will address the place where that violence is occurring a lot of times, which is in the
You know, our viewer wants to know how they get involved in the Family Justice Center. That's excellent. She has a lot of experience in the school system.
Please give me a call.
You work on. All right, go to a couple more because there's a few more election things I want to highlight here. Down the joint. All right. See, and that's what we need. You know,
Yes, community
people-
involvement from the ground up.
Exactly.
Thank you, Keisha.
A lot of people think, you know, again, that they don't have to get involved in order to make the closed cases. And, you know, we hear Chief Evans all the time saying, we need community involvement. In your office, how important is community involvement?
It's crucial.
Okay.
It's crucial. So even before I was elected, when I was deputy Commonwealth's attorney, I was in charge of what is called the precinct prosecutor
Okay.
Policy. And so the city of Richmond, as you all know, is split up into 4 police precincts: first, second, third, and fourth. Right? We're in
We're the
Third
this is
or second?
second precinct.
second precinct. And so there is a designated prosecutor from my office who is responsible for going to as many community meetings in the second precinct and talking with the members of those committees, of those civic associations, and bringing their concerns to the police or bringing them to us. If a community member is concerned about a particular incident, if they want to know what our office is doing about a particular thing, there's a precinct prosecutor who they can contact. And that person is on our website that I mentioned earlier, the rva.gov. But I was one of those precinct prosecutors. And so I think that that is the best way for people to see prosecutors, not just in the courtroom, but in the community. And then I attend a lot of those meetings myself. And so we have a list of roughly 50 or 60 community groups that exist in the city of Richmond. My request is that you all stop all meeting between Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6 to 7:30, because it's hard to get to 60 different meetings when they're all at the same time, the same 3 days. But people have lives, and I certainly understand. But I try to get out as much as possible. I'm going to be at the 2 Street Festival. I'm going to be on Browns Island. I'm going to be at Cape Pasa. I'm going to be out and about because I want people, when they see me, to one, know who I am, to know that I am their elected Commonwealth attorney, and that I want to be around them to hear directly from them. So I've had people come up to me in the food line or when I'm walking on Carytown and go, hey, aren't you? Yeah, I'm Colette, how you doing? Can I ask you XYZ? Absolutely. And while I can't talk about cases that are actually going on in my office, I can certainly tell people generally, this is what's going to happen, or this is why this happened, or this is how this got charged. And once again, it's so important for people to have knowledge so that they feel some sense of control and empowerment. And that's what I want to do. And that's what I want to give the community.
Absolutely. And I can attest to, because we do have the pop-ups in the community engagements where the police department and a lot of agencies, and your office is always has a table set up. You have all your, some of your deputy attorneys out there. You have some of your
Victim witness.
Yeah, victim witness out there. And that's something I've always said, and I say it again publicly, is that you've been in the community, you stay in the community, and I think that is why people are really appreciate what you do, because you're not up in some ivory tower like the Wizard of Oz or something like that, just handing out, assignments. And unfortunately, from some of the things that I've heard your opponents say, this is a boots on the ground, day-to-day grind, and you have to know what's going on. You got to be engaged with the city, and you stay engaged with the city.
I think that's crucial. I think it's important. Because otherwise, how do you know what your community wants and what's driving them? And what, the West End cares about is going to be a little different than what Oak Grove cares about. And what Forest Hill cares about is going to be a little different than what Stratford Hills cares about. And so you have to know each community, and you have to balance, how can I serve the most people and do the best job for the most people? And you can only do that if you're actually talking to people and they have access to you.
Absolutely. So, Ms. Commonwealth's attorney, what makes you the best choice for our Commonwealth's attorney to continue to do the job that you're doing?
I am the best qualified.
Yep.
I have the most experience,
Surely is.
both managerial experience and trial experience. I've actually prosecuted the hard cases. I've actually created programs that have helped people. Over the course of my 4 years, 500 people have gotten their records expunged. We have prosecuted over 800 financial crimes involving embezzlement, grand larceny, obtaining money by false pretenses, credit card and identity theft. I've held 8 different conversations with the community forums, like the ABCs for criminal law, like the forum on the mail problem. And so all of that expertise, all of those relationships that I've developed over the 30 years, all of the actual on the ground experience that I have, I want to give to the citizens of Richmond, to the residents of Richmond, so that they know they have a Commonwealth attorney who is not only going to talk about it, but is actually going to be about it.
I like that.
Yes.
10 toes down.
Go
Definitely
vote,
10.
yes.
AK?
I'm done. She said, "Oh, we stay."
She's like, why are we still here?
Well, I
Go vote, please.
yeah, go vote.
Yeah.
Definitely go vote. I'll take what I'm about to do very seriously. We might not be one of the largest, but we did beat out 250 other stations across the globe and the city. We officially, at Cruising Radio 102.8 and Cruising Media, hereby on this day, May the 28th at 8:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, officially endorse you and give you our vote and stamp of approval.
That's a good.
Thank you.
That's a good.
Thank you.
That's a given.
Thank
That's
you.
gonna be good.
And you know it.
So
I
every
don't
event-
I don't assume anything, so I appreciate that. I
Absolutely.
am so thankful. I appreciate all of your listeners. I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Miss Knight. Thank
Absolutely.
you for giving me this platform.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And what you got to tell a story about the lady. You were somewhere at the church the other day,
Mhm.
and the lady mentioned about getting one of your signs.
Oh, okay. Now that has happened a lot recently. So which church, which lady, what?
She mentioned the mayor of a certain 8th district area. Don't y'all get that twisted now? Yeah.
Oh, yes. The mayor sitting to my left. That would be your right, viewers. Yes.
Anyway, I proudly displayed my signs in the yard. Got several of them. So
And because this lady saw the mayor of Waldorf Drive with his sign, when I think I was at Pastor Ralph Hodges' Second Baptist
Second
Church, she said, Bruce lives down at the other end of my street, but I want a sign at my end of the street. And
Oh,
so
nice.
I left Second Baptist and I came right over here and delivered her sign.
Nice.
that's the point I want to make. She delivered the signs.
Mhm.
She didn't send somebody else, and that's what I love about you because every campaign, I walk with you. We go out there. We knock on doors together. You don't send other people to do your bidding for you. I know Richmond's a large area, but you again are out here knocking on doors, meeting people, finding out again what their needs are. So, with all sincerity, thank you for doing that. Thank you for staying engaged. I think when I first met you, one of the things I said, stay engaged. And that was, I could had 2 cents worth of advice to put in a thimble. I'm not making that word up. And we looking at me like it's a thimble. You've seen one of those. But anyway, that was the thing that I asked Colette and gave her my advice is stay engaged.
Absolutely. And whoever stole my Colette signs out front of Venue AK, ought to be ashamed of yourself. Either you took my sign. If you took the sign because you needed it in your yard, I'm okay with that. But if you took my sign, you one of the opponents, it's a problem. And then I'm gonna have to pull back my daggone cameras to see who took my signs out front of my venue. So we need some more signs back in front of my venue. Then stop now. I got
Thank you.
at the long run. We're close. Don't be messing with us over here at Venue AK with our signs.
Don't mess with the
Don't mess-
outside. Don't mess with the outside.
Especially that one when she started shaking her head and moving and rocking in that seat.
I had 2 signs out along with whoever else I have out here. So I have my sheriff signs out. And my Colette signs were gone.
Mm.
Yeah.
They didn't take the sheriff's signs?
Nope.
Mm.
Well, one is because I should have had 2 out. I had 2 of each. One is going up the sheriff. I don't think there's one sign out front, right? I don't think there's one sign out
I
front.
think that's it.
Where my Colette signs gone? I'm like, okay.
I mean, seriously, people,
Circling back to what's really important.
go vote, go vote,
Please go vote.
vote.
Yes.
We can't say that enough. And not just go vote, vote for Colette Wallace McEachin for
Absolutely.
Commonwealth Attorney of the City of Richmond. We need the continuation of the programs that she is wanting to implement. And just again, somebody that has the experience, hands down, to lead this office because I'm dead serious. I'm not being judgmental. I have no personal gripe, whatever. I'm being very factual here. I want somebody that I know when it comes to high profile cases, know what the hell they doing.
Yeah.
Point blank period.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go vote at the bottom.
Go vote.
Please vote. Please vote.
All right, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Another great conversation. Please have me back. I'm going to wear out my welcome.
Yeah. And we're going to continue to talk about this until the election happens.
Yeah.
You know,
Thank you.
we have who we want, but
You're putting the information
and
out
that's
there.
what we talk about.
You're putting
So,
the information out
You know,
there.
in our
for people to
TV
receive.
screens and our lobby, because I have hundreds of people to come through, hundreds and hundreds. You know, so I'll be rolling, you know, all of my folks that we endorse. It's just going to be rolling throughout. So people just walking in and out through events. So they can't say I can't do what I want to do in my building, in my lot,
Her neck is moving.
Yeah, I told you. And for the
whether you like it or not.
for the
Please
3,198
go vote.
people that voted for me in November,
Mm.
please go
Go
out
vote.
and vote.
Yes.
Okay,
Please go and
you
vote.
know, because again, I am who I am a lot in part because of you know of what you have been teaching me, some of the things that you've been helped me to develop a lot of insight in. So I try to surround myself and be around people that are positive, that want to see change, and that is about diversity, that's about equality, all the things that are being stripped away from us. We need to understand if you don't vote for the right person, we're going to continue to lose the grounds that we have had over the last 60 some years. We're about to lose a lot by not going out to vote and not voting for the right people. So that's my thing tonight.
Amen, Pastor.
And you know, in the Democratic Party, it's going to be here at the NAACP, so you can
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah.
And they start in June the 2nd up until November. So they'll be here 4 days a week from 10 in the morning to like 4. So if you want to stop by and get some literature, some pamphlet, they will.
That's
They will be
wonderful.
here
That's
at
great.
VUAK in 1804 East Bell Boulevard.
That's right. We do a
So,
lot of things behind the scenes. You know, we're not just
so stop by and get
Yeah.
some literature
Exactly.
and probably to have some signs. We need some stuff in here. And I think these ladies that's going to be in here.
Great. We'll do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Be informed. Be
That's right.
informed.
Absolutely.
If you don't have a sign, make sure you go to our Facebook page. It's Colette for Commonwealth.
RVA.
RVA.
Right, and make sure that you reach out to her, get your signs, make donations. Donations are important.
Yes.
It takes money to run
Absolutely.
commercials. It takes money to do a
To
pamphlet.
print the signs.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
signs are not
The signs
free.
that some of y'all move. Don't
Yeah.
you? Let me see you moving the sign. All right, I'm gonna call the popo on you.
I won't prosecute you.
All right.
My signs.
What is that word Trump likes to use for police now that they're getting something immunity?
Qualified sovereign immunity.
Yes, we're gonna talk about that.
Qualified
next.
immunity.
Yeah, qualified immunity. We're gonna talk about the next time we come on because again, in the hands of some of our jurisdictions, that can be a dangerous thing. And so we want to talk about the ramifications of that and how that can impact people of color on a serious note. So y'all keep on coming back. I told you we full of shenanigans all the time. We bring you something that either will make you think or make you consider or make a difference. That's what we're about. All right, AK,
Yes.
close us out.
I'm done. Go vote.
Go vote.
done?
Yeah, please go vote.
Oh,
I would appreciate your vote.
Absolutely.
She would. She would greatly appreciate it. And if I had, again, a big truck, I'll be riding around in that truck with signs.
One of those boom.
Yeah.
Bullhorns.
Yeah. I want to do this because, again, to me, when I had the blessed opportunity to meet this gentleman, and he was so down to earth. All the other stations were there, and just a little nobody. He stopped and took time to again grant me an exclusive invitation or invite. I can't say I'm I'm so thrilled that he did that interview. And when you get to certain positions, most politicians, they pick and choose who they want to talk to. So again, I want to say to you, your husband was just absolutely amazing, very people oriented, and I never ever forgot that interview that night. So this is as we close out tonight. I want to leave this tribute to you know.
The first thing that you need to do is to make sure you get yourself to as safe place as you can. Find yourself a competent attorney who practices in personal injury and will understand some of the things that you're going through. And as I tell people, for 33 years I've been doing this. I've had my own accident. So I would like to be one of those individuals that they would interview so I can at least try to find out how I can best help them myself.